The station's night cycle was quiet, the kind of quiet that pressed against the ears. Soft lights ran along the ceiling of the human quarters, dimmed to a pale blue. Outside the thick window, stars drifted like frozen dust. The base floated at the edge of Alliance space, far from any warm sun. Everything here was metal, rules, and long hours of waiting. Elias Kane slept lightly, as soldiers often did. His dreams were shallow, easy to break. When a sound brushed the edge of his hearing, his eyes opened at once. It was not loud. It was careful, a small shift of air, a step that did not quite match the floor. His hand moved before his thoughts did, fingers closing around the grip of the pulse pistol resting beside the bed. He did not sit up. He did not breathe any deeper. He listened. The door to his room was sealed. He was sure of it. He always locked it. The light by the door glowed green, steady and unchanged. Yet something moved between the door and the bed, a darker shape against the pale walls. Elias spoke in a low voice. "Identify." There was no answer. He rolled to the side and rose in one smooth motion, pistol raised. The room lights brightened slightly as the station sensed movement. That was when he saw her clearly. She stood near the wall, tall and unsteady, one hand braced against the metal surface. She was not human. Her skin held a faint silver-blue tone, marked with thin lines that pulsed weakly with light. Her eyes were large and dark, reflecting the room like still water. She wore layered armor and travel cloth, cracked and burned in places, as if she had passed through fire. She looked at him, and her knees buckled. Elias crossed the room in 2 steps and caught her before she hit the floor. She was lighter than she looked, and far colder than any living thing should be. A sharp chill seeped through his uniform as he held her up. "Hey," he said without thinking, "stay with me." Her breath came in short, broken pulls. Her eyes fluttered, struggling to focus. She made a sound that might have been a word, but it fell apart before it reached meaning. Elias lowered her carefully onto the bed. The pistol stayed in his hand, but it dipped toward the floor. Whatever she was hurt. Badly. She reached for the clasps at her neck with shaking fingers. The armor there was heavy, designed for vacuum exposure and high radiation zones. She fumbled, failing to release it. Her chest rose and fell too fast, the light under her skin fading with every breath. Elias hesitated only a second before stepping in. "I'm going to help," he said, slow and clear, not sure she understood his words but hoping the tone mattered. She did not pull away. He worked the clasps open and eased the armor off her shoulders. Beneath it were thinner layers, tight and dark, lined with technology he did not recognize. As the armor came free, she gasped, her body shuddering as if the air itself hurt her. She grabbed at the inner layers, tugging them loose. There was no grace in the motion, no intent that felt like display. It was pure need. One piece after another slipped to the floor, silent against the metal. When she was done, she swayed, bare skin shining faintly in the low light, marked with small burns and cuts. The cold in the room seemed to press harder around her. She took one step toward Elias, then collapsed forward. Her weight pushed him back onto the bed. She landed across his chest, her head tucked against his shoulder, her long limbs draped without care. Her skin was ice cold at first contact, and Elias sucked in a breath at the shock of it. His arms lifted on instinct, then froze. His mind raced, caught between training and something older. This was not in any manual. This was not a drill. The station lights dimmed further as the night cycle deepened. The hum of distant engines filled the silence. She did not move. Her breathing slowed, uneven but steadying. The faint lines under her skin brightened just a little. Elias realized then that the cold was fading. Where her body touched his, the chill softened. Her temperature was changing. "Okay," he murmured, barely louder than a thought. "Okay." He adjusted his position carefully, shifting so she lay more evenly across him. He kept his hands open and visible, resting them at his sides. He did not know what she needed, but he knew she had chosen him, this place, this moment, for a reason. Minutes passed. Maybe more. Time lost its shape. His heart slowed. His breathing evened out. He became aware of small details, the way her weight rose and fell, the faint hum of energy from her skin, the quiet click of cooling systems behind the walls. Her eyes opened. They focused on his face, sharp now aware. She did not move away. She studied him in silence as if memorizing every line. "You are human," she said. Her voice was low and soft, shaped by a different throat, but clear enough. "Yes," Elias replied. "I am." She closed her eyes again, relief passing over her features like a shadow lifting. "Good." That single word carried more weight than he expected. "My name is Elias," he said. "You're safe for now, but you need to tell me what's happening." Her fingers curled slightly against his uniform, not gripping, just resting. "They are looking for me," she said. "If they find me before I recover, I will not leave this station alive." "Who is they?" he asked. "My own," she answered, "and those who serve them." That made his jaw tighten. He had heard enough stories to know what that meant. She shifted, pressing closer, and Elias felt a warmth bloom where their bodies touched. Not heat like fire, but a steady, deep warmth that spread outward. The cold in her skin vanished almost completely. Her breathing slowed further. The light under her skin grew stronger. Elias stared up at the ceiling, thoughts racing. He knew the rules. Unauthorized beings on the base were to be reported at once. High-ranking or not, alien or human, it did not matter. But this was not an enemy slipping in to kill him. This was someone running to survive. "What are you?" he asked quietly. She was silent for a moment. Then, "I am Lureth of the Virelian Accord." Third voice to the council. Elias swallowed. That was not just important, that was powerful. Someone like her did not move alone unless something had gone very wrong. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "I know," she replied, "but you should not be alive either." Not by their plans. That sent a cold thread through him even as her warmth spread. She lifted her head slightly and looked at him again. "Your species," she said, "is different from what the records claim." "Yeah," Elias said, "we get that a lot." A faint curve touched her lips, not quite a smile. "Your bodies generate constant balance, heat, electrical rhythm. It is steady. Most species fluctuate. We do not survive that well under stress." "So you needed," he trailed off. "Contact," she finished. "Stability. Without it, my systems collapse." Elias nodded slowly. It made a strange kind of sense. The galaxy was full of life that worked in ways humans had never expected. He shifted again, making sure she was comfortable. His arms lifted this time, settling lightly around her without pulling her in or pushing her away. She relaxed further at the contact, a quiet sound leaving her throat, more breath than voice. The station clock marked another hour passing. Somewhere beyond the walls, the base continued its routines. Patrols moved, systems cycled. No alarm sounded yet. Elias knew that would not last. "Lureth," he said, "if they're looking for you, they'll scan the crew logs, they'll search the quarters." "Yes," she said, "soon." "Then we don't have much time." She looked up at him again, eyes steady and calm now, no longer clouded by pain. "I do not need much," she said, "only enough to stand, enough to run." And after that, her gaze did not waver. "After that, human, we change many things." Elias let out a quiet breath, something between a laugh and a sigh. He stared at the ceiling once more, feeling the weight of the moment settle into his bones. He had signed up to defend humanity among the stars. He had not expected that defense to begin like this, in the dark, with an alien leader lying across his chest, trusting him with her life. Outside, a distant engine changed pitch, a patrol ship adjusting position. Inside the small room, two very different beings lay still, sharing warmth and silence, while the future of more than one world quietly shifted its course. The room felt smaller once the decision was made. Elias lay still for a long time after that, listening to the quiet hum of the station and the softer sound of Lureth's breathing. Her warmth was steady now, no longer fragile. The faint light beneath her skin pulsed in a calm rhythm, like a resting heart. When the soft chime of the station clock marked the next cycle, she stirred. "I can move," she said quietly. Elias tilted his head to look at her. "Slowly," he replied. "No sudden hero moments." She shifted, testing her limbs. Her movements were careful but controlled. When she lifted herself from his chest, the sudden coolness made him realize how much heat had passed between them. She sat on the edge of the bed, spine straight, eyes alert. The weakness was gone, replaced by a focused calm. Only the marks on her skin showed how close she had come to collapse. "You stabilized me," she said, "faster than expected." "Glad to be useful," Elias said as he sat up. "Now we need a plan," she nodded. "They will not search randomly. They will move with authority." As if the station heard her, a faint vibration passed through the floor. Elias felt it through his boots. "Docking," he muttered. Lureth turned her head slightly, listening to something beyond human hearing. "Two vessels," she said. "Enforcer class." Elias swore under his breath. "That was quick." "They were already close," she replied, "waiting for confirmation of my presence." Elias moved to the wall panel and pulled up the internal station feed. Security icons flickered to life. Patrol paths updated. Several sections of the base shifted to restricted status. "They're ceiling levels," he said, "starting with command and diplomatic quarters." Her gaze sharpened. "They believe I would hide among power." "Well, they don't know you ran into a tired human with bad luck," Elias said. She studied him. "You could still report me. You would be rewarded." He met her eyes without hesitation. "Not happening." "Why?" she asked. He thought for a moment. "Because you came here to live, not to fight, and because someone tried to kill you quietly." That seemed to satisfy her. She inclined her head slightly, a gesture of respect. "We cannot stay," she said. "Not like this." "I know," Elias replied. "Maintenance levels below this deck, old corridors. No one likes crawling through them," she frowned. "Your station hides paths from itself." "Humans do," he corrected. "Machines just follow orders." He opened a locker and tossed her a folded thermal sheet. "Wrap this." "Not armor, but it'll help with the cold." She accepted it, wrapping the material around herself with practiced ease. "Your people adapt quickly," she said. "We have to," Elias replied, already pulling on his jacket. "Galaxy's not gentle." He led her to the back of the room, where a narrow service hatch blended into the wall. With a quick override, it slid open, revealing a dark passage lined with cables and pipes. Cold air rushed out. Lureth hesitated at the threshold, her skin dimming slightly as the temperature dropped. Elias noticed immediately. "Hey," he said softly, "stay close." She stepped forward and he moved with her, keeping his arm within reach. When her hand brushed his sleeve, the light under her skin brightened again. "So that's it," he said quietly. "Distance matters." "Yes," she replied. "Too far and my systems weaken." "Then we don't get far apart," he said simply. They moved into the passage, the hatch sealing behind them. The space was narrow, forcing them close. Elias led, using a small light to guide the way. The metal walls pressed in, amplifying every sound. Above them, boots passed. Voices echoed faintly through the structure. Alien tones mixed with human station security chatter. "They're already coordinating," Elias whispered. "They will attempt to control the narrative," Lureth said. "They will claim I am unstable, dangerous." "Classic," Elias muttered. "Blame the victim." They descended ladder after ladder, moving deeper into the station's hidden layers. The air grew colder and stiller. Frost clung to exposed metal in places where heating systems had failed years ago. Lureth slowed, her breathing tightening. Elias stopped at once. He turned, placing a steady hand against her back. "Talk to me." "The cold," she said, "and the distance between pulses." "Okay," he said. "Then we pause." He shifted closer, sitting against the wall and guiding her down beside him. The contact was immediate. Her shoulders relaxed. Color returned to her skin. She looked at him, something unreadable in her eyes. "You do not hesitate," she said. Not when someone's hurting, he replied. She was silent for a moment. Among my people, that trait is rare. Among humans, too, he said honestly, but we try. A distant announcement echoed through the maintenance shafts, distorted but clear enough. Attention all personnel, the station voice said. Remain in your assigned sectors. Unscheduled movement will be investigated. Lureth's jaw tightened. They are using your systems. Temporarily, Elias said. Humans built in limits. Emergency overrides expire. They waited until the echoes faded, then moved again. Elias chose routes that twisted and doubled back, paths he had learned during long shifts fixing things no one else cared about. At one junction, a shadow crossed the opening ahead. Elias froze, pulling Lureth back into the darkness. They pressed against the wall, breath held. Two figures passed, their armor sleek and dark, movements smooth and precise. Enforcers, not human. Their eyes glowed faintly, scanning. One paused, head tilting. Residual energy spike, it said in a flat voice. Elias felt Lureth tense beside him. Human thermal output, the second replied. Common. The first lingered another second, then moved on. Only when their footsteps faded did Elias breathe again. That was close, he whispered. They underestimate you, Lureth said softly. They always have. They reached a forgotten control room an hour later, its panels dark and coated with dust. Elias powered a small section, bringing up a partial map. This gets us to the cargo ring, he said. Lots of noise, lots of traffic, easier to hide. And after, she asked. He met her gaze. After we tell the truth, she studied him carefully, that will make you enemies. I already have some, he replied. Comes with the uniform, she nodded once. Then I will stand with you. Before he could respond, the station shuddered. Alarms flared to life, red light flooding the corridor. Unauthorized vessel has assumed control of outer systems, the announcement blared. All hands, the message cut off. Lureth rose to her feet, posture changing. They are forcing command. Can they do that? Elias asked. Not legally, she replied. But legality is fragile. Elias clenched his fists. Then we move faster. They ran. Through narrow halls and open bays, dodging crews frozen in confusion, slipping past security teams redirected by false orders. Elias used every trick he knew, every blind spot and shortcut. At the edge of the cargo ring they stopped, hidden behind stacked containers. Lureth leaned against him, breath steady but focused. I am ready, she said. Enough to act. Good, Elias replied. Because once we step out there, everything changes. She placed a hand over his chest, feeling the steady rhythm beneath. Your kind, she said quietly, endures without asking why. That is your strength. He looked at her, surprised. And yours. We choose, she said. And today I choose to trust you. Above them, the lights flickered as systems struggled for control. Across the station, lines were being drawn. And in the shadowed cargo ring, a human soldier and an alien leader stood together, preparing to face a force that believed humans were weak, and was about to learn how wrong it was. The cargo ring was never quiet, but now it felt wrong. Too ordered, too controlled. Elias watched from behind the stacked containers as automated loaders moved in perfect lines, guided by a system that no longer belonged to the station. The usual noise of human crews shouting and laughing was gone. In its place was a low mechanical rhythm and the distant echo of armored footsteps. They're hurting people, Elias said softly. Lureth followed his gaze. Human workers were being directed into marked zones, their comm units flashing with enforced instructions. Enforcers stood at key intersections, tall and still, their glowing eyes watching everything. They are isolating witnesses, she said, and limiting communication. Classic takeover, Elias replied. Quiet first, loud later. He checked his wrist display. Most internal channels were locked, but a few maintenance bands still flickered in and out. Human-built systems always left cracks. We need a voice, he said. Something they can't shut down easily. Lureth considered this. The station council chamber, she said. It has independent broadcast cores, designed for multi-species transparency. Elias grimaced. That's also the most guarded place on the station right now. Yes, she agreed, which means they do not expect us to reach it. Elias glanced at her. Despite everything, she stood straight and calm, her presence steady. The light under her skin was bright now, no longer struggling. Whatever she had gained from him had taken root. Okay, he said. We get there, we talk. Loud. Before they could move, a sharp sound cut through the air. A loader unit screeched to a halt nearby, sparks flashing. Elias swore. They're scanning again. Lureth stepped closer, her hand brushing his arm. Stay near me, she said. I can dampen my signature for a short time, but yours will remain. Story of my life, Elias muttered. They moved when a transport cart passed, slipping into its shadow and following it across the ring. Elias kept his head down, posture loose, just another tired human worker. Lureth mirrored him, her movements smooth but careful, mimicking human pace. At the far end of the ring, they slipped through a service door just before an enforcer turned its head. The corridor beyond was dim and narrow, lined with old signage in half a dozen languages. Elias led them deeper, taking stairs instead of lifts, avoiding main junctions. As they climbed, the station trembled again. This time it was stronger. They're moving something big, Elias said. Command Corps, Lureth replied. They will attempt to rewrite authority codes. Elias felt anger flare in his chest. This station is Jointron. Humans helped build it. That is why they must break it, she said. Your presence makes control uncertain. They reached a mid-level observation deck overlooking the council chamber. Through the thick glass, Elias could see the room below. It was empty of delegates but full of enforcers, at least a dozen positioned around the central platform. Yeah, Elias said flatly, that's a problem. Lureth studied the layout, eyes sharp. They believe I am weakened, afraid. Well, Elias said, we can use that. He pulled up a maintenance schematic. See that access tunnel runs above the chamber, old audio relay lines. Her eyes brightened. If I speak through it, they'll hear you everywhere, Elias finished. If the system doesn't fry first. They moved again, crawling through tight spaces and climbing ladders that shook under their weight. The air grew warmer as they neared the upper systems. Elias felt sweat gather at his neck, but he did not slow. At the final hatch, he paused. Once we do this, he said, there's no hiding. Lureth met his gaze. There was never hiding, she said, only delay. He nodded and opened the hatch. The tunnel was cramped, packed with cables and old relays. Elias squeezed in first, then helped Lureth follow. She winced at the distance as he moved ahead, and he immediately slowed, staying within arm's reach. Sorry, he whispered. It is enough, she replied, her voice steady. They reached the relay node and Elias got to work, hands moving fast. He bypassed safeties, rerouted power, and opened a channel he hoped still existed. Okay, he said finally. You're live, station-wide, maybe beyond. Below them, an enforcer looked up, sensing the change. Lureth drew in a slow breath. When she spoke, her voice carried not just sound, but authority. People of the Accord, she said. This is Lureth, third voice of the council. The chamber below erupted in motion. Enforcers shifted, scanning wildly. I speak under duress, Lureth continued, calm and clear. Not as a criminal, but as one betrayed. Across the station, humans froze where they stood. Alien crew members turned toward speakers. Conversations died. I was declared unstable to hide an illegal seizure of power, she said. The enforcers you see are not here to protect. They are here to silence. An enforcer raised a weapon toward the ceiling. Elias leaned out, fired a quick pulse shot, and the weapon sparked uselessly. Keep talking, he said. I was hunted because I refused to approve forced compliance measures, Lureth said. Measures that would reduce member species to resources. Murmurs spread through open channels. Their plan required one thing, she continued, the removal of humans. Elias felt his jaw tighten. Humans disrupt control, Lureth said. They adapt. They resist quietly. They endure. Enforcers began firing upward, shots slamming into the tunnel walls. Elias returned fire not to kill but to delay, forcing them back. You were told humans are weak, Lureth said, that they break under pressure, that they submit. She paused, and when she spoke again, there was something almost like pride in her voice. I survived because a human did not abandon me. That sent a shock through the station. I lived because a human body provided balance when my own failed, she said. Because a human chose compassion over obedience. Security teams began to hesitate. Some lowered their weapons. Others turned toward the enforcers with uncertainty. The accord was built on shared strength, Lureth said, not domination. A sharp impact rocked the tunnel. Elias lost his footing, catching himself just in time. A piece of debris cut his arm, blood seeping through his sleeve. Lureth saw it. Her voice did not falter, but her eyes darkened. They will try to silence me now, she said, because truth cannot be controlled. The main chamber doors burst open as more enforcers rushed in. Elias checked his ammo. Lo, wrap it up, he said urgently. Lureth nodded. People of the station, she said, do not obey illegal orders. Protect one another. Remember who you are. She turned her gaze upward as if she could see through metal and space. And to the humans, she added, your presence matters more than you know. The channel cut as Elias severed the line to prevent tracing. For a moment, there was silence except for their breathing. Then the station erupted. Security feeds lit up. Human crews began moving, helping one another, blocking corridors, shielding civilians. Some alien personnel joined them, refusing enforcer commands. They heard you, Elias said, panting. They really heard you. Yes, Lureth replied. Now comes the cost. The tunnel shook again as enforcers closed in from both sides. No way out the way we came, Elias said, scanning. But there is one option. He pointed to a maintenance drop leading into the chamber itself. That's a long fall, she said. I'll go first, he replied. Break your fall, she stared at him. That could injure you. Already injured, he said with a faint grin. Let's keep it even. They dropped. Elias hit the platform hard, rolling to absorb the impact. Pain flared through his side, but he stayed conscious. Lureth landed atop him, lighter now, steady. Enforcers turned as one. Elias pushed himself up, placing himself between them and her, weapon raised though nearly empty. You want her, he said. You go through me. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then a human security officer stepped forward, weapon trained on the enforcers, then another, and another. This is a joint station, one of them said. Stand down. The enforcers hesitated. For the first time, uncertainty rippled through their ranks. Lureth stepped beside Elias, her presence strong and undeniable. You have lost, she said calmly. Outside the chamber, alarms shifted tone. New ones, different authority. Elias let out a slow breath he had been holding for far too long. It was not over. He knew that. But the lie had been broken. And across the station, people were no longer afraid to stand. The chamber did not explode into chaos right away. Instead, it filled with something heavier, hesitation. Elias stood with his feet planted wide, pulse pistol raised, even though the weapon's charge indicator blinked low. His arm hurt where the debris had cut him, but he ignored it. Pain was simple. Decisions were not. Around them, human security officers formed a loose line. They did not rush. They did not shout. They simply stood, weapons steady, eyes alert. Some alien crew members moved behind them, pulling civilians out of the chamber, placing themselves between the enforcers and anyone who could not fight. The enforcers shifted. Their perfect formation cracked. They were trained to face fear, not doubt. This station is under emergency authority, one enforcer said, its voice amplified and cold. Step aside. No, replied the human officer at the front. His voice was calm, almost tired. This station is under joint charter. You don't outrank that. The enforcer paused. Its eyes flickered, processing conflicting commands. Lureth stepped forward. The movement was small, but it changed everything. She no longer looked like someone who had collapsed hours earlier. Her posture was straight, her presence heavy with meaning. The faint light beneath her skin shone clearly now, steady and strong. "You were sent to silence me," she said. "You failed." The enforcer raised its weapon slightly. "You are classified as unstable." Lureth's gaze did not waver. "I am classified as inconvenient." A murmur spread through the chamber. Elias felt it like a wave. People were listening again, really listening. The enforcer turned its head toward Elias. "Human interference has compromised this operation." Elias shrugged slightly, even with the weapon still raised. "Yeah, we do that." Another human officer stepped forward. "Orders have changed," she said, tapping her comm. "Outer Command is back online. Emergency authority revoked." That hit the enforcers harder than any weapon. Several turned their heads at once, internal systems racing. "You see," Lureth said quietly, "power taken in shadow does not survive light." For a long moment it seemed like the chamber itself held its breath. Then one enforcer lowered its weapon. Another followed. Not all of them did. Three remained rigid, weapons still raised, eyes glowing brighter. "They will not stop," Elias muttered. "I know," Lureth replied. "They were not built to choose." The three enforcers moved at once. Elias reacted without thinking. He stepped forward, firing a pulse shot that struck the floor between them, forcing them to adjust. Human security moved as one, coordinated without words. Shots cracked the air, not lethal, aimed to disable joints and sensors. The chamber erupted into controlled motion. Elias felt a sharp impact against his shoulder as something slammed him sideways. He rolled, came up on one knee, vision blurring for a second. The enforcer loomed above him, weapon raised. Then it stopped. A heavy crate slammed into the enforcer's side, knocking it off balance. A dock worker stood behind it, breathing hard, eyes wide but determined. "Get away from him," the worker shouted. Elias did not waste the moment. He fired again, striking the enforcer's leg joint. Sparks flew. The machine collapsed. Across the chamber, the last two enforcers were being overwhelmed, not by strength but by numbers. Humans and aliens together, working as one, blocking, pushing, disabling. It was not pretty. It was not clean. It was real. When the last enforcer fell, the chamber went quiet again. Not empty quiet, alive quiet. Elias leaned against a railing, chest rising and falling fast. His arm throbbed. He looked around, half expecting another threat. Lureth stood near the center platform, surrounded by security and crew. No one touched her, but no one turned away either. She raised one hand, and slowly the murmurs faded. "You have done more than protect me," she said. "You have protected the Accord from itself." A human officer shook his head. "We just didn't let bullies win." "That," Lureth said, "is rarer than you think." Medical teams arrived, moving quickly. Someone tried to pull Elias toward them, but he waved them off. "I'm fine," he said. "Check the others." A medic frowned but moved on. Lureth approached him. Her eyes flicked to the blood on his sleeve. "You are injured," she said. "I've had worse," Elias replied. She studied him for a moment, then placed her hand lightly over his chest again. The warmth spread instantly, gentle and grounding. "Still steady," she said softly. "Always," he replied. The station's main display screens flickered to life around the chamber. Symbols of authority realigned. Joint command restored. Emergency protocols lifted. Cheers did not erupt. Instead, there was something quieter, relief. Later, much later, Elias sat on a crate in a secure bay, his arm properly wrapped now. The adrenaline had faded, leaving exhaustion in its place. Lureth sat across from him, posture relaxed for the first time since he had met her. "They will not forget this," she said. "Those who sent the enforcers." "Good," Elias replied. "Neither will we," she nodded. "There will be consequences, hearings, challenges. Attempts to discredit." Humans are good at paperwork wars, Elias said dryly. That earned him a real smile this time. You surprised many today, she said, including me. How so? You did not act for reward, she said, or recognition. You acted because it was right. Elias shrugged. That's not special, that's just normal, she tilted her head. Then your normal is extraordinary. A message chimed on Elias' comm. He glanced at it, then sighed. Command wants a statement, he said. They want details. They will, Lureth said. Truth is inconvenient, but it must be recorded. He stood slowly, joints protesting. You'll be safe. For now, she replied. I will remain under joint protection. He hesitated, then said, You know, you could have chosen someone else's room. Yes, she said, I could have. Why me? She looked at him, thoughtful. Because you were awake. Elias blinked. That's it. Awake enough to hear, she said, and tired enough not to pretend. That stayed with him. As they walked toward the exit, alarms finally fell silent across the station. Systems stabilized. Patrol ships repositioned, not to threaten but to guard. The station had survived, but something else had changed. News would spread, not just of a failed coup, but of a human who stood between power and its victim without hesitation. Of humans who did not rush to rule but refused to kneel. Lureth paused at the doorway and looked back at the chamber one last time. This will echo, she said. Elias nodded. Yeah, it will. He did not know yet how far those echoes would travel. Only that when they did, humanity would no longer be seen as quiet background noise in the galaxy. They would be seen as something solid, something steady, something that, once it chose to stand, did not move. The station entered a new kind of quiet after the crisis ended. It was not the tense silence from before, but a tired calm, the kind that followed hard truth. Systems ran smoothly again. Patrol lights shifted back to soft white. The stars outside looked the same, but everyone inside knew something had changed. Elias stood near one of the large windows in the medical wing, watching a repair drone glide past. His arm still ached, wrapped tight in clean white fabric, but the pain was dull now. Manageable. He had been ordered to rest, though his mind refused to slow down. Behind him, voices moved through the hall. Humans, aliens, talking together, arguing lightly, laughing in small bursts. It felt different than before, less careful. You should be resting, Lureth said from the doorway. Elias turned. She looked lighter. Not physically, but in the way she carried herself. The tension that had clung to her since their first meeting was gone. Her skin still glowed faintly, but now it felt like strength, not strain. I am resting, he replied, just standing. She stepped inside and stood beside him, also looking out at the stars. For a moment, neither spoke. The council has reconvened, she said at last. Emergency session, not closed. Elias raised an eyebrow. That's new. They could not hide this even if they tried, she said. Too many witnesses, too many recordings. Good, he said. Let the galaxy watch. She turned to him. You will be mentioned by name, he grimaced. I was hoping to avoid that. That will not be possible, she replied gently. You are now inconvenient. Elias laughed quietly. Figures. Later, the chamber filled again. Not with weapons this time, but with voices. Delegates appeared on screens from dozens of worlds. Some were calm, others were angry, a few were afraid. Elias stood at the back near the wall, surrounded by other human personnel. He felt out of place among so much power, but no one asked him to leave. Lureth stood at the center. She spoke clearly, explaining everything. The attempted takeover, the lies, the enforcers, the choice to remove humans because they were unpredictable. She did not raise her voice. She did not accuse without proof. She let the truth do the work. When she finished, the chamber was silent. Then questions came, hard ones. Why were humans targeted? Asked a delegate from a high-gravity world. Because humans endure, Lureth answered. They adapt without permission. Because they do not break easily, added another delegate. That is not a crime. Some nodded, others did not. One voice cut through the noise. And this human, it asked, Why did he risk everything? All eyes turned toward Elias. He shifted, uncomfortable. Lureth looked back at him, waiting. Elias stepped forward slowly. I didn't think about risk, he said. His voice echoed more than he expected. Someone was hurt. Someone needed help. I helped. That is all, the voice pressed. Elias shrugged. That's enough. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then an old delegate leaned forward on the screen, eyes sharp. Perhaps, they said, we have misunderstood humans. The session ended hours later, not with shouting but with decisions. Enforcers were suspended. Investigations opened. New protections proposed. Humans were no longer quiet partners. They were necessary ones. News spread fast, faster than Elias expected. By the time he returned to his quarters, messages waited on his comm, from command, from old friends, from strangers he had never met. He ignored most of them. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the spot where everything had begun. It felt strange now, smaller. A soft knock came at the door. Come in, he said. Lureth entered carrying a small data crystal. I will be leaving the station soon, she said. Elias nodded. He had known this was coming. Back to your people. Yes, she replied. They will listen now or pretend to. He smiled faintly. That's politics. She held out the crystal. This contains my formal statement and my personal record. He took it carefully. Why give this to me? Because history forgets context, she said, and I do not want this moment rewritten. He met her gaze. I won't let it be. She studied him for a moment, then stepped closer. She placed her hand over his chest one last time. The warmth was familiar, steady. You were my anchor, she said softly, in the dark. You saved yourself, he replied. I just stayed still. She smiled at that. When she turned to leave, Elias felt something twist in his chest. Lureth, he said. She paused. If things get difficult, he said, you know where to find us. She nodded. Yes, I do. Her ship departed quietly. No ceremony. Just a clean break from the docking ring, sliding into open space. Elias watched until it vanished among the stars. Weeks passed. The galaxy argued. Councils split. Some worlds resisted change. Others welcomed it. But the story stayed the same wherever it was told. A human soldier did not obey. He chose. Stations updated their protocols. Humans were invited into planning roles, mediation roles, stability roles, not because they were the strongest, but because they were steady. Elias returned to duty, different duty. He trained crews now. Mixed crews, humans and aliens together, teaching not how to fight but how to notice when something was wrong, how to stand without shouting. Sometimes he caught people watching him, measuring him, expecting something grand. He never gave it to them. One night months later, his comm chimed softly, an incoming message, secure, council level. He opened it. Lureth appeared on the screen, older somehow but smiling. They tried to silence me again, she said calmly. They failed. Elias nodded. I figured. I wanted you to know, she continued, your species has been given a new designation. Oh, he said, that sounds dangerous. She smiled wider. You are now classified as stabilizers. Elias laughed. That's it after all that? Yes, she said. Because when everything shakes, you remain. The message ended. Elias leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. He thought of that first night, the cold, the silence, the weight of another life trusting him without knowing why. He had not changed the galaxy with a weapon. He had done it by staying. Outside, the station lights dimmed for night cycle. Stars drifted slowly past the windows, silent and endless. And somewhere among them, humanity was no longer overlooked. They were seen, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as those who carried others through the dark and did not let go.